Well, I promised it, so here it is. My video review of Wings of Fire, Book 15, The Flames of Hope. I will start with a quick, spoiler-free review. If you have read the previous 14 Wings of Fire books, I would recommend reading Book 15. It's not my favorite, and it's not as good as the other books, but if you love all the other books, I believe that you will enjoy this one as well. It follows Luna and her group of friends as she has to go and defeat. What does she have to defeat again? She has to defeat the breath of evil in whatever is controlling it. The breath of evil is a plant that has mind controlled all of her friends and all of the hive rings. Her and a small ragtag team have to go and save the world, or else the plant will spread to the other continent. Overall, I would give this book about 2.5 stars out of 5. And that right there is where the spoiler-free video ends and the spoil review begins. So if you have not read this book and you plan to, click off now. I want to get the bad out of the way first, so that we can end with the positives. Ever since the relationship between Sundew and Rilo began, I was not a fan. I believe that marriage was intended to be between a man and a woman. The Bible says that. And I also believe that God is a perfect, loving God. And if He created you a boy, then He had great intent that you would be a boy. And so that's what I believe. So the fact that there's one relationship between two females and another romantic relationship between two males, I'm not a fan of. But I knew that these books had the capacity to have these relationships in them, so I signed up for that when I read the book. Book 11 through 15 just seems like a cash grab to me. The books were selling really well, so Toei and Scholastic probably just wanted to make more money. That seemed to be the main reason this book existed, because it's just not as good as the first two parts of the series. Like, the first 5 books left a lot of questions. Like, what's going to happen after this war? How are these dragons going to get along? What happened to Scarlet? It had a lot to explore, but this series kind of seemed like it was thrown in just to make money. I mean, if it was good, I wouldn't mind. And I really did enjoy the first book, and I enjoyed the second book almost as much. Book 13 was okay, it was just uncomfortable for me. Book 14, I enjoyed fairly well, and book 15, about the same amount. So, it's not just as good as the other books were. One of the reasons I love this series is because the dragons are the main characters. So the fact that the humans were brought in as like sentient beings, and the fact that they played such a big role, I don't like it. I came here for dragons. But it makes sense in the story about this whole series is about, like, I believe, getting a glimpse into the fact that everyone thinks differently and how we can still come together and be good for each other and help each other. And the fact that these dragons were eating humans and that they were sentient beings, that was a problem that needed to be solved. So I can see why. I just want my dragons. Book 15 was a little confusing at times. Like, there was a moment where Luna got kidnapped by the Breath of Evil, and then just these weird visions just popped out of nowhere. And for like 3 chapters, maybe not that long, for at least like 2 chapters, you had no idea how she was seeing these visions or why she was seeing these visions. And then you find out that it was the Scorching that we were watching through the memories of other humans. And that was really confusing to me. And confusing your audience can be good, but at the same time, it can't be too confusing that they want to put down the book, which is kind of where I fell. But the visions were all pretty well explained after that. Now let's talk about what I did like. Seeing glimpses of Luna and Zoltan's relationship was pretty cute. They're not my favorite ship. I believe that has to be Qibli and Moon, or Death, Brina, and Glory would have to be one of my favorites. The fact that their age gap, Glory and Death Brina's age gap, is so weird. It's weird, but if Tui hadn't written Assassin, then that whole thing would just be fine, because we wouldn't know their age and we would just assume that they were close in age. But that whole age thing is throwing everyone for a loop that knows about it. But yeah, back to book 15. It was good to finally figure out who was controlling the plant and who the bad guy was actually. But Tui had us waiting for so long, and that made for a villain that wasn't as strong as the previous villains. And also, Queen Wasp was just thrown out the window. Like, she wasn't like important or like at all. So I'm supposed to be talking about the things I did like. Finally figuring out about the Scorching was cool too. That's something that I believe the fandom has been very curious about. I personally didn't really mind not knowing exactly what it was, but it was cool finding out what it actually was. So, near the end of the book, Lizard, or now Freedom, sacrificed herself so that the planet wouldn't regain control and mind control everyone. And I was thinking that Tui would allow Freedom to live and that she was going to make it out okay. But I kind of like it better this way. It's sad because she really came around and like grew on me. She became a much better dragon just by spending a few days with Luna. So it would have been cool to see where she went from there, but it was a strong moment. Qibli is still funny and still fun to read about, although not quite as funny as the previous books. I also love the bits of Moon and Qibli being together. They're always good when you have them in a scene. Another thing I didn't expect was the fact that a lot of Hiverines were still like bad after they are free of Wasp mind control. Like they still thought they were so superior and that Leaferines and Silkerines would solve them. I was surprised by that, but it also makes sense, and I feel like that's what would happen in like a real world situation. So I applaud that part. So yeah, that's about all I had to say about that. I do want to say a thank you to Tui T. Sutherland for writing this book series. I have been reading these for over a year now, and they were so much fun and made me think of other people in a bit of a new and different way. So thank you for that, Tui T. Sutherland, and thank you to you guys for watching, and I will see you guys maybe sometime soon.